Welcome to WizThrift, your one-stop shop for all things mystical, magical, and fantastical. Hello everybody, my name is WizThrift. My real name is Colton, but today I am here with a new friend. Ari, could you give a little introduction of yourself?
Okay, I'm Ari. I am the owner and designer of Vecna's Laboratory, which is mainly a whole bunch of different stuff for D&D, like boxes and dice trays and a bunch of weird stuff. But I love making it, and I like sharing it with other people.
Nice, awesome. Okay, and why did you choose the name Vecna's Laboratory? It's a super evocative name. What drove you to choose that?
I just love the storyline of Vecna. It's really interesting to me, and I was like, okay, well, Vecna's kind of on the evil side, so I'm gonna make some weird ass shit and just pretend I'm like a little laboratory. That's kind of like how it came up.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah, I think Vecna, and especially with like Critical Role, bringing him kind of into the mainstream, I think any character, any lich that is able to achieve or at least almost get to being a demigod or a god, I think that's super cool. I think that's a really awesome way to play a villain. So
yeah, it's always more fun.
For sure. And how did you get into role-playing games? Where did this all start for you?
I did play role-playing games kind of when I was younger, and then it kind of picked up popularity the last few years and got more mainstream, and I got back into it, and I didn't realize like how huge the community was. And I'm like, oh my God, I like need to be a part of this now. It's so much cooler with like the internet and everything.
Oh yeah. For sure. That's awesome. Did you start with like 3rd edition, 2nd edition? Where was your beginnings there?
In the beginning, I'm like not sure what edition we used, but it was in the 90s.
Okay, gotcha.
but now it's like the 5th edition now. So
yeah, for sure. No, I love that 5th edition. Is super accessible to everybody, and it's a fantastic edition. Like, why do you love role-playing games?
I think it's kind of a cathartic way to express yourself, and whether that's like an alter part of yourself or just to like let go and just be goofy and have fun with your friends. Like, you can literally do anything, and that's why I love it so much. Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, I think recently, the past couple of years, I've really kind of explored different parts of myself through this game. That's one reason why I love it. Do you have a favorite character that you've played in the past, or even a character you're playing on your live streams right now?
I used to. I love playing rogues. I think they're like the funnest thing to play.
Yeah.
And rogues aren't typically good people, so when I first started a campaign with my friends, I'm like, oh God, it's gonna be interesting. So I definitely like kind of playing that side better.
That's fun. Yeah, rogues, they can be a bit shifty. I think I'm not a big fan of like the super edgy, my parents are dead and I'm on the streets and everything, but I think it's fun to like play morally great characters and stuff like that.
You gotta have the balance, otherwise the game gets real weird real fast.
Yeah, and I think it's like, obviously people are complicated, and it's nobody is one like black or white, but I think it's kind of funny to see how the perception of these characters has been. Oh, paladins are 100% good, and rogues are super edgy and evil and dark, and they're stab you and whatnot. But I think it's funny to see the range and how people play with those things.
Just like being like playing with people that you're like, wow, I did not know you had that in you to be like that. You learn a lot about your friends.
Yeah. I didn't know you were into murder and just like torture and all these weird things. But
me too.
Yeah. Oh man, we have so much in common. Yeah, it is funny to see, or like I've played with people who are like they're like in their 30s or 40s and they're acting like teenagers in a romance. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like this is so weird. But yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of those people in my 30s doing this.
yeah, hey, that's okay. It's a fantasy. It's a role-playing game. It's like we're writing our own books, you know. So like
Yeah.
obviously I don't think you're that type of person acting like a teenager in love, but you know, in the game there's nothing wrong with that. As long as your table's okay with it.
You never know in the game.
Hey, you never know in the game. I'm into murder. I didn't know that until I played D&D. So just kidding. I'm not into murder, but
No judgment zone.
okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now this is WizThrift shop is a safe place where we can all talk about ourselves and the things that we're into or should not be into. So
Right.
okay, what about your crafting? How did you get started crafting?
I've kind of like been crafting my whole life, but like with the whole pandemic, I kind of got into woodworking.
Okay.
And it's just like I just learned more and more and more about it, and kind of just like got addicted to it. And I'm like, okay, well, just doing this for fun. And then I'm just like, oh, I could do this for a lot of people. But yeah, it's definitely fun to learn new materials and everything and methods. But yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, your spellbook dice trays are beautiful. The way they're able to make them look the way they do.
Thank you.
They really are fantastic. How long does it usually take you to make one of those?
Well, the box itself like a couple of days, and then like for the top, I frame it, and I use resin for the top to make it like weird different colors. Mm-hmm. And then I have molds of different like cloths and stuff like that I pre-do, and then I set it inside there. So I mean, at least like a week or two to make one. Okay.
Dang. That's dedication right there. Do you make them like for each person individually, or do you just make a bunch of them?
I have made some weird ones that I don't think people would vibe with, I guess.
Okay.
But I try to make them kind of like general for everyone. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it definitely can. I love making weird stuff.
Yeah. No, I think one other than the pins that you make, which I got one. Bard is my favorite class, and so I got one of the flute ones. But I think those pins are super cool. I love minimalistic type designs and stuff like that. But I think one of my favorite things that you've made that I saw recently was the gelatinous cube coasters.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and so I've played a little bit with resin. Unsuccessfully mainly, but I've played a little bit with it. How do you make good resin objects? Because like I've tried it, but I always get bubbles, and even when I use special tools. Do you have any tips or tricks for any newbies out there trying to use resin?
I also struggled with resin for a very long time until I got it down too. And like I mostly use, because there's UV curing or like heat curing ones. Yeah. But I guess I've had the most luck with trying to keep it as like room temperature as possible inside the room. Because like out here in the desert, like the weather fluctuates and it like messes it up, and then and I also didn't know that you can't you have to be very careful with it with gloves and everything, because it does like get everywhere. But I recently learned that if it's too hot and you have aerosols in your room, it does not cure at all. And I'm like, oh.
Okay, yeah, that's a good tip, because then it's just sticky and gross, and if you spill it, it gets everywhere.
Yeah, it's a mess, but it's fun, but a mess.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And have you been like just general, like you said, you've mainly gotten to woodworking since the pandemic. Before, like, have you done crafting like just throughout your life, or was this just like a new passion that you started in 2020?
I kind of just like always been crafting, I guess, with different kind of like I've tried like sewing and knitting and like basically every craft there is, because I like always need something to do, and I always start a new hobby all the time. And then just this one, I kind of like looked into it and I was curious about it, and then I ended up really liking it. kind of like getting more and more into it. And once I made something like actually cool, I'm like, wow, I can do this. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if you're able to make money from it, that's a plus right there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at first I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this just because I like doing it. And if other people like it, that's awesome. And that's kind of like the attitude that I kind of have now.
Mm-hmm. That's super cool. Do you have a favorite, personal favorite of all of your crafts that you've made? Or maybe something that you haven't released yet?
Yeah, I am working on some pretty cool stuff for
Okay.
like the holidays.
Sweet.
But yeah, I think my favorite thing of all is the cubes, because it's like I make everything that goes inside. I like chop up little stuff and like paint it and stuff to go inside. And like I love finding teeny tiny little things to put inside it, and it's like so many different things you can put inside. So I'm like, yeah. Those are my
That's
favorite.
awesome. I've always been obsessed with those little sword toothpicks that people put in sandwiches, and so seeing like that you're able to put those little swords in there, like, I don't know why. I mean, I just love swords. I'm a huge nerdy guy who loves fantasy things, but so I've always been obsessed with those little swords. So seeing that you have those in the Gelatinous Cube coasters, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome, and I'm like, ooh, I can jazz them up like this. Like, it's endless. So my love of many things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so tell me about your streaming. I've seen a few clips here and there. I haven't had the chance to watch a whole stream at all, but you guys seem like a pretty fun group, like most people that stream. But what's special about your group?
Well, I mainly like guest star on like one shots, because like with everything, I don't really have time to do a full campaign. But my first one shot was like an art style one shot, and it was with other artists, and it was like so much fun just meeting all the other artists. And then they invited me back to do this one, and it's like with you more fun and chaotic. So it's pretty fun. It's like nerve wracking because I'm just out of my comfort zone, but it's like really fun though. Yeah,
I remember you posted on your story a couple days ago where you're just like, my rogue is gonna be chaotic and kill everybody. So are you just always looking to murder everybody? Is that why you like one shots over actual campaigns, because you can murder everybody?
Yeah, there's like no consequences after. So you're just like, let's just do it.
Yeah, you had to think about it for a second, do my morals, everything, but no, you're just you agree.
Yeah, you're like, how psychotic do I want to look on the internet? Okay.
I mean, okay, like, yes, D&D is in the mainstream now. Everybody, like, literally everybody's played. Like, I've gotten my family into playing, but we still gotta keep up the front that we're all a little psychotic and crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we do that, just because.
Be boring.
We shouldn't gatekeep, but we should, only special people come in. Just kidding. Anyone can play, but you just got to be willing to try everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have the good mix of people, otherwise you're like, okay, this is awkward.
Yeah. But for me, like, the funniest thing is to see these super reserved people, and they're like, okay, I kind of get it now. And they get in and they just get super into it. And I'm like, whoa, calm down.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Relax for a second. Let's slow down here.
Yeah, that's totally me. I'm like, oh yes, come over and play D&D. And I'm just like, welcome to the murder town.
Yeah. So, are you planning on being a dungeon master to do your own camp, like one shots, or are you just gonna keep guest starring?
Probably just keep guest starring. I have way too much anxiety to be a DM. If anything goes out of control, I'm like, God, no. I'm very good at doing things on the fly. So it's way more enjoyable playing.
Yeah.
As a player.
So you can dish it out, but you can't take it when it comes to chaos?
Yes.
Oh, man. Okay, well, you know what? You need to get across the table, and you need a DM because it is a whole different experience. But also think about it. Yes, you are the one that like receives all the chaos, but at the same time, think of all the crazy things you can do for your players and how much you can mess with them. Like, my favorite thing is just rolling a bunch of dice. No reason at all. Just roll a bunch of dice, and they're all like, what's going on? Why is he doing that?
Oh, it's all awful. He's like, oh no.
Yeah. Or we
you
know
have a look on their face, and you're like, no.
Yeah, or when they're like, is there any traps in here? Okay, roll perception, investigation, whatever. And they roll it. They don't roll high enough, and you're like, it seems okay. But you don't focus on those words. You just add little words here and there. So.
Yeah, I'd be like, are you sure?
The funniest thing though, I was conditioning my players for a long time to just kind of be really wary and really like scared of things, and eventually I put them a bunch of like against some really hard monsters, but the monsters just wanted help, and so they were all just like, they were trying to kill them, and then they eventually figured out like, oh, we need to help them out. But you can mess with your players a lot and just have fun with it. So I say
the long con. Oh my god.
it is the long con, and then they all TPK'd, and that was kind of my fault, but also consequences. But it's whatever. You know. Now, but because they've TPK'd, now they are playing new characters who are on a quest to get the souls back of those dead characters, and it's from hell, and it's awesome.
I know. I like have a catalog in my mind. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm not that mad that I died because I have several other options right now.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I love is like I think in my D&D Beyond, I have like 70 characters or something like that, because I'm just always coming up with ideas. So, and that's the curse of being a dungeon master.
Yeah, and each one gets like weirder and more specific, or that's me. I don't know.
These are my 70 plus.
I'm a witch now.
Hi, these are my 70 plus personalities. Enjoy. So, just kidding. They're not personalities. They're just things that I want to try out. So.
Right. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Do you, speaking of that, do you have a character that you're planning on using in the future? That is just like super weird, or maybe just like super conservative?
I don't know. Like, I was thinking about maybe doing like, I've never played a bard before, but I'm like not that creative, so maybe I shouldn't. But
that's okay.
It's just like something I've never done before.
Okay, bards, they're not just singers. You know, what if you were a bard mime, or you were a bard interpretive dancer, or a bard stand-up comedian? Think of those vicious mockeries.
True. I did not think of that.
You don't just have to sing or play an instrument. There's a lot of things you could do.
Now I have some writing to do.
This is what I do. This is what I love. So. Awesome. Well, hey, can you give us a little sneak peek, little hint of like any projects or something that's coming out in the future? At least 20 people will see this on YouTube. So hey,
well, that's worth it.
It's a pretty exclusive group right there.
Like, I was working on like an even bigger box.
Oh, really?
To put dice in, because I have so many. And I didn't realize that people had like so many sets of them, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm like a big box, and it sounds lame, but I'm really excited for it.
Like a mimic box, like a chest.
Ooh, I could.
Or like in Harry Potter, the monster books.
True.
One of those.
True.
I'm giving these to you for free. I'll only take 50% royalties.
Okay, that sounds perfectly reasonable.
Perfectly reasonable. Yeah. Your spike in sales, that's from me. That's from me. Yeah. Okay, so you're making some bigger boxes, some really cool stuff. I mean, that sounds awesome. And do you have any plans for the future to make this like your full-time gig, or are you just like doing it on the side?
Well, right now it's like just me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find the balance of wanting to do a lot more and then trying to be realistic of what I can produce
Yeah.
in a timely manner. So it's difficult finding that balance because you're like, oh my God, I can do all this, and you're like, oh no, I gotta make all these orders now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a learning curve.
For sure. I mean, running your own business, that really is a difficult thing. So I get that. I mean, I don't get it in the sense that I'm doing it right now, but I get that it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I think it's just a trend with starting a venture and just wanting to be successful is you don't realize how much work it's actually going to take, and then you question if it's actually worth it, and then it is, and then you just got to do even more work. So
Yeah, it's a complex.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, Ari, now that's through all my questions and everything, and it has been a joy to talk to you. What do you want to shout out? What do you want to tell people about?
Just check me out on Etsy, and if you want to make something weird, I am your girl.
Do you take requests?
I do.
Oh, okay, awesome. What type of requests do you take?
Pretty much like if someone be like, oh, I'm looking for like a minute version of this, or like, can you make this look not so scary, or
or
stuff
or
like that.
or
But
scarier.
Yeah, always, or scarier.
Hmm.
I love making different variations and customs for people.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super cool. Sweet. Well, those links will definitely be in the description, and I will definitely be posting about that on both Instagram and YouTube. So that's fantastic. That's awesome. Sweet. Well, Ari,
Yay!
thank you so much for sitting down with me and just gushing about D&D and crafting and everything we did for just a little bit of time here. I really appreciate it. It was super fun, and so thank you so much.
I know. Thank you. I had so much fun too.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. Well, have a good night.
Thank you. You too.